Hey everybody, Tag Life Done Free. Hey, I had an interesting conversation with a lady who stood up for her own health and stood up against what the doctors were telling her and stood up and took responsibility and accountability for her own freedom, for her own health freedom. And so, if you're interested in learning more about her journey and how she stood up to it, come on, let's check it out. Hey everybody, this is Tag Life Done Free. Tonight we have another homestead guest, and so I'd like to introduce all of you guys to Laura. Laura has the YouTube channel Potpourri for Life, and so we'll link it in the description below. Make sure you go over, make sure you subscribe, because guys, at the end of the day, we've got to support each other, right? Community is all we're going to have, and so let's get on board. Let's support each other. But before I go on a rant, because this isn't about me, it's about Laura tonight. And so, Laura, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Hey folks, thanks for watching tonight. I am somebody who has gone from living at home with my parents when I was little, of course, and then I learned a lot from my granny. She's from Missouri. She's of course long gone past, but she gave me an inspiration to be a good godly wife. And despite some family issues when I was growing up, everybody has their baggage, but despite it all, I maintained my faith and I kept going and I stayed in touch with my granny. And I don't know, just the fact that despite what happens in life, you still hang on to the people that matter. And my husband matters a great deal to me. So we've gone through a lot. We were married 6 years before we decided to have kids. And of course, everybody's asking, you, when are you gonna have kids? When are you gonna have kids? And what we did was we worked in woodworking together. Then I later, as I was working in one of the areas, the administration office asked me, wait, why don't you come into accounting? And so this is a stepping stone that was actually beneficial because later on I was in accounting for 16 years and I specialized in cost. And then I decided to stay home, homeschool my girls, which I did for 10 years. But at the same time, I started up a sewing business, which I'm really proud of. I ran it for 20 years. Recently, I shut it down, but as the world is changing and evolving, I'm thinking I need to reopen that because I made good money. It's just I put it on hold because of how people valued seamstresses. I mean, they don't understand the value of people's time.
Mhm.
And I had good customers and I had interesting customers. But I put it on hold because I just needed to take time out. And my youngest daughter then decided, hey, mom, I want to go to regular school. She was our youngest. And I said, are you sure you want to do that? So she did. And then I went in for my nursing training or nurse assistant. It's a licensed nursing assistant. And I'm glad I did it. I loved it. And everybody was saying, you need to be a nurse. And I said, I don't want to be a nurse. I did when I was in high school, and I didn't have the means to go to college then, but I was just watching nursing 20 years ago is way different than it is today. And my goal was to take care of patients.
Mhm.
And then what happened is Lyme disease took over and it knocked me for a loop. So I still kept going slowly with my sewing business, but I ended up staying home. And then as I started to heal, how I got into herbal medicine is because of Lyme disease. I did not want to go on to antibiotics, and I was already using herbs, and I fought it. But I will say the 4 years of that treatment did help, but I was still sick all the time. So I learned so much about herbal remedies on how to regain your energy, how to do a lot of things. And I also learned that sometimes you need to rest.
Mhm.
And I've learned to accept that. And I'm just now just the reason I started my YouTube channel was because after watching others and after 2 years of world chaos is what I call it, I just decided I got to get out of this slump because that's what it was. I was starting to get depressed and I'm like, I can't do this. So I started seeing Wanda and Danny. I started watching them and I was inspired to do more than herbs and flowers.
Mhm.
And then I was watching Heidi from Rain Country, and I'm like, wow, these people, I mean, I learned a lot from Danny and Wanda. And then I knew some of what Heidi was sharing, but she has so much more information to share that I was like, this is exciting stuff. And that triggered me to watch others. So by springtime, I already had my plants started,
Mhm.
and I learned not to put them out too early because I lost a few plants.
Mhm.
But what I've learned through everybody I've watched and listened to is that no matter how many years we are in something, there's more to learn. And I did that with my sewing. There was always something new to learn. And so now I like the YouTube channel because after watching other people, I realized that I can do this. And I did it because other people that I knew were asking me, well, why don't you teach this? And why don't you do this? And it's like, I didn't want people in my house. After 2 years, I don't want nobody here. And it's not that I don't like people, it's just that I found that it can be very toxic when their expectations are higher than what you're willing to give,
Mhm.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I'm not a selfish person. I just have learned that it is okay to say no
Mhm.
and that I can put boundaries up for myself.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I was when you and I were talking earlier. You've been married 43 years, is that correct?
Yeah, this May it'd be 43 years.
Man, that is a long. You don't look old enough to be married 43 years. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be 62 in August. So
Yeah,
we got
so I think something you said earlier that I think is really really cool is, well, you didn't say it, but you said it. If that makes any sense at all, is that there came a time where you took responsibility for your own health.
I did. Yes.
And I think that that's super empowering. And so, what was in you that caused you to not just follow the status quo and say, "Hey, I've got to take ownership of this"? What happened in your head?
Well, even when I was a nursing assistant and I would see things and I was doing things naturally even before I was diagnosed, because it took them about 4 years to finally diagnose me with Lyme disease.
Mhm.
And it ended up being chronic persistent Lyme. And I won't go into the details of how all the details of Lyme disease. It's horrible if you don't get diagnosed soon enough.
Mhm.
And so I was getting sick. I was looking into all sorts of treatments. And so here we had people, I worked mostly in the preoperative area where we're getting patients prepped.
Mhm.
And I talked to a lot of patients and they would share things. They love the nursing assistant. And so you learn things and you just talk to them, you're down to earth. And even the nurses liked me in there. But when like our head nurse would come in and she would say stuff, I said, no, you can do that naturally. And she always put people down who use natural remedies.
Mhm.
And I would say, those chemicals that people are putting into their body, it's not, everybody has their choice, but it's like you can do some things naturally.
Mhm.
And oh, she did not like me at all. And the other nurses would say, Laura, you can't talk back to her. I said, I will not sit back and allow somebody to say something's not valid when in fact it is.
Mhm.
And yeah, I feel like I'm that troublemaker who speaks up. And I'm actually kind of low key, but yeah, I kind of like speak up when I see it, and then nobody likes me. But I've learned to get over it.
Yeah, I wrote down on my little notepad. I carry a notepad, and then I take notes as we're talking. I wrote down Laura the troublemaker.
There you go.
I like that. Well, I think that so you came naturally to. I mean, you came early to natural healing.
I did. And then when I wasn't healing as the doctors were giving me medication, and I would look things up. It drove the doctors nuts
Mhm.
because I would say, listen, this is what's happening to me. I would research it and I would tell them what was going on. Plus, I had surgical tech training and nursing training, and I had some medical terminology and all that kind of stuff. So I was learning so much all the time. So I was putting them at a place of, I was not a submissive patient.
Mhm.
So I was always asking questions. But now I'm down to two doctors.
Mhm.
One is a holistic doctor, and the other one is a specialist. And he just smiles at me. He goes, Laura, I'm not an herbalist. I said, I know you're not an herbalist, but this is what I'm doing.
Mhm.
And he works with it. So I need him for some things,
Mhm.
but he knows I won't go on medicine.
Yeah,
So
I
I
can,
feel, I feel
you
empowered.
I told B about 15 minutes ago before I was getting ready to come up here to do this. I told B, I said, you know, you really should be the one doing this interview. And she said, why is that? I said, because you guys are just the same. You know, like B's all about natural everything, all about it. And, you know, she could talk about it a lot better than I could. But I think it's absolutely fantastic that you've taken that responsibility back because at the end of the day, it's taken me a long time to realize this, but they're not really out for our best interests.
No, no, some of the things that I read today, and I'm privy to some medical
Mhm.
journals and stuff, and some of the things I've been reading, even the doctors are now starting to say, we've got to stop this in
Mhm.
terms of, the pharmaceuticals are in charge of how doctors can prescribe.
Mhm.
And if you're on Medicaid or Medicare, as patients are prescribed something, the insurance company can change it mid-year, and then the new year they have new plans, and then the doctors are having trouble because they have to change the prescription for the patient, and then the prices are getting so high patients aren't taking their medication.
Mhm.
And so my thought is, why take it?
Mhm.
God gave us all of this stuff on this earth to heal us. Not that we don't need medical intervention. I will never say we don't need it.
Mhm.
I just think we can do things for ourselves
Mhm.
without constantly putting chemicals into our bodies.
Yeah, you know, I would also agree with you, Laura, that there's a place for modern medicine and there's
Mhm.
a place for, you know, herbal natural remedies. And it's too bad we don't have a system that would work together, right, to figure out what was best for the patient. Because I really think, and this, I don't want to derail this conversation, but I really think that the goal of the system is to keep you a good soldier paying taxes as long as you can. And as soon as you stop becoming productive, you know, the quicker you die, the better.
I think that's their plan. Sorry. And I refuse to die on their terms.
Right. Yeah, but isn't that sad? I mean, that we live in a society where that is the motive, you know, behind all of it. And what does the pharmaceuticals know about you, Laura? Nothing.
They know nothing. And that's what is even frustrating for the doctors because all they can do is give you one thing or another. And even my Lyme specialist, I finally had to leave him because his last statement to me, I said to him, I said, these are the symptoms. And I used to go in, he used to be able to say, this is the bacterium that you're fighting. And so he would say, okay, what are you using for the tinctures or the herbs and stuff like that? He's not an herbalist. He would always make sure of that. But the last time he goes, okay, let's experiment. And I'm like, whoa. And I said, what do you mean, let's experiment? And he goes, well, I'm going to prescribe these drugs and stuff like that. And I got quiet and he goes, I'm sure you don't want to. And I said, I'm sure I won't take them. And I never went back. I never picked up the prescriptions.
Yeah. Yeah, good for you. You know, it's hard to take a stand when the whole system is built, you know, to dictate what we do every day. I think it just takes an immense amount of courage to stand. And I salute you for having the courage to stand because that's not easy.
No, but I love it because even now my husband will ask me different things and I just like, you're going to do this? Are you sure? Because at first he was apprehensive.
Yeah.
And then he saw that I've been taking care of myself. I was diagnosed in 2014. And so in 2018, I was all on my own, except I would go in once a year for a check in, just to kind of follow up. So for the last, 4+ years, I've been doing this on my own. And for the most part, I do pretty good. And then some days I have bad days,
Yeah.
but doesn't everybody have bad days?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think just the case of getting older, you know, I'm 50 and, you know, I don't have the energy I did when I was 20. I mean, there's not even,
No, it's kind of scary. It's like, do I have to get up today? Yes, you have to get up today.
you made me laugh in the email that you sent me when it said, you know, my mind, you were talking about, you know, your mind's still young, but sometimes your body's saying, no, you're not today.
It's sort of like when you go down to the bottom shelf at the grocery store. It's like, I can't get up. It's like, what is this? The brain does not connect to the knee and the joints to lift you up.
You know, I know a lot of people out there who are really yearning to be free. And,
Mhm.
you know, there's a lot of different types of freedom, and you've heard me talk about it on the channel a million times. You know, there's, you know, financial freedom, and there's, you know, freedom in your health, right?
Yep.
I mean, freedom, in your energy. There's freedom in your food. There's all kinds of freedoms. If someone was trying to figure out how to take responsibility for their own health and said, "Hey, Laura, tell me three things I should do," what would you tell them?
I would probably tell them to take a look at what they're eating. What are you consuming? Are you traveling the perimeter of the grocery store, or are you going up and down aisles?
Mhm.
Because if you're going up and down aisles, you are making your body sick. If you're going around the perimeter, going to the farm stands or going to your local farms, you will actually get better. That's the first thing I would tell them. And then I would tell them, nobody likes to hear this, you got to get out and move. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be an athlete of running and stuff, just getting out and moving, even if that means going up and down your stairs. How I exercise in the winter when it's icy out is I actually pace in my house and go up and down stairs. My doctor thinks I'm crazy, but you know what? I get my exercise in.
Mhm.
And I don't, because I do that and I'm not, and you can use light weights. And I used to go to a club long ago before my kids were born. But after children, there's a lot of things you put on hold and you realize where your priorities are. But I just found that walking at home or walking outside, and now I have the chickens. Thank you, Lord, for those chickens. Um, I have to get up. I have to go out there, and it's not a long distance, but there is another purpose in my life. And that's the other thing is to be well in life, you have to have a purpose. I
Mhm.
don't know what the ultimate purpose is, but I have found that being on YouTube,
Mhm.
I'm able to share what I know.
Mhm.
I don't know where I'm supposed to go because I have a diverse interest in a variety of things, but I kind of like being able to share that.
Mhm.
And so that gives me purpose to get up. And then when ideas flow,
Mhm.
I'm kind of like jotting down, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then I just got to make the time without overtaxing my body.
Mhm. I have never thought of it. I think you put that so brilliantly, the first part of that, which was if you're shopping around the perimeter or if you're going up and down the aisles. I've never heard it said like that, but that is actually really smart because all the processed foods are in the centers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That
I
is,
mean,
I wrote that
there's
down.
there's some on the end caps, but it's kind of like, okay, what do you really need? If you only have $50,
Hmm.
where do you go? Do the perimeters because another thing that I tell people is you'll be fuller on the produce.
Yeah.
People do not believe that. You
Yeah.
don't have to buy as much. But and I just go to a farm stand now, and after watching Wanda can all these potatoes and watch other people can all these things, if I can't grow it, then I'm going to that big farm stand and I'm going to buy in 50-pound bags, and I come home and do what I can't grow. I
Yeah.
can that way.
Yeah.
But
So tell me a little bit about, I don't know how you view yourself, like I have a lot of people on my channel who consider themselves preppers. I have a
mhm,
lot of people on my channel who consider themselves homesteaders. I don't consider myself either of those. I consider myself a freesteader, which is why I called it freesteading, um, because I'm trying to live free, right? So that's
yep.
my mission. Everything else is a side effect of living free. I have chickens not because I want to be a farmer, but because I don't want to go to the grocery store to buy my eggs and my meat. Anyway, so how do you view yourself in this?
Well, somebody actually knew me from before. I've always been a prepper of sorts
Okay.
because when you go through bad times, you want food on your shelves.
Yeah.
So I've always had food on my shelves.
Hmm.
And over the years, I learned what foods we actually eat.
Hmm.
So I don't stock food that we won't eat. So I've always had food on hand, but I have a hard time saying I'm a homesteader because I'm on a quarter acre lot,
Yeah.
but that's not our ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is to actually be on another piece of property. And what we did was we do have financial freedom right now, which it's so freeing.
Amazing.
I'll tell you. I cannot say, and years ago, we got rid of the other debt. And then this year, we got rid of the house debt. And it's just like, it's, it's miraculous.
Hmm.
And that alone makes your health so much better.
Hmm.
So, I understand a lot of people can't get out of there, but one of the things we taught our girls, don't do, because we made the mistakes of having credit card debt,
Yep.
and it takes longer to get rid of it than to make it.
Yep.
So we tried teaching them, and the oldest said, "Mom, let me make my own mistakes." I said, "Okay." And
Yep.
I and she found out soon how much stress,
Mhm.
debt can cause. And so my husband is really happy that I worked really hard to do this. And so now I'm working at saving towards getting a bigger piece of property.
Yeah.
So will it happen? It might. I'm not going to be discouraged because you know what? The property we have is ours.
Mhm.
I just have to pay the town taxes.
Right.
Um, but I have the chickens, I have a garden, and I've learned so much from everybody as well as my own mistakes that, okay, next year I can try it this way in this area over
Mhm.
here. And, there's different things. And the sun was bitterly hot.
Mhm.
It was awful. It killed a lot of plants. So I learned.
Yeah. Well, I think I would encourage you that you are every bit of a homesteader I am.
I think so. I don't want other people telling me what to do.
That's what I'm saying. But that's kind of why I kind of tend to be a freesteader because
Right.
I'm more like, I don't, I like saving the earth. I like my low carbon footprint, but it's not why I did any of it. That's just,
No.
it's just not. And I just want to live free. I don't want people telling me what to do. I want to make my own decisions. I want to be accountable. I want to win if I win, and I want to lose if I lose, right? And so I would not shy away a bit of calling yourself a homesteader. You've got a piece of property, regardless of its size. I know a lot of people who homestead on your size, a lot,
It's
who are actually
amazing.
pretty successful at it. I got a buddy of mine in Texas named Jonathan, and he's been on a lot of the lives and all that. That dude's he's rocking for his little lot that he's got. I mean, he's a badass, you know.
But we also have compost bins. We got about four of them. And I did not have to go to the garden center to get soil or dirt and I remember hearing Danny say soil, dirt, whatever. It's what you plant in.
Right.
We had so much. And then what I also learned is that you could make your own soil with cardboard and the leaves. So instead of raking the spring leaves out to the side of the road for them to come and suck up or put back into the compost, I just started making piles and making new garden beds.
Yep.
And it was amazing because my husband thought I was nuts, but I said, no, this is going to grow. So I just put the layers in there, and then it was amazing what grew out of those piles. I
Bro.
mean, I hoarded them around.
Yeah.
Then, and I think I shared with you, one thing I don't like to do is throw things away if it's not necessary.
Hmm.
So a couple years ago, trees fell down on our property, and it they knocked down one of our gazebos. And so my husband just put it aside, and it was like driving me nuts because it looked like a piece of junk. Nobody saw it because it was behind a fence, but I don't like the junkyard look.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, I said, I need a greenhouse. And he goes, how are we going to do that? I said, we're going to take the gazebo, we're going to frame it up with wood, then we're going to put plastic roofing and plastic around the edges, and we're going to have a greenhouse. It's fabulous. So, and it works. And I was amazed at how warm it was using what we had.
Hmm.
Yeah, I had to purchase the wood and I had to purchase the plastic and the roofing, but that roofing comes down, goes into 55-gallon barrels,
Hmm.
which we were taking water, putting it through the filter. And so we didn't use a lot of city water this year either.
I think that's absolutely fantastic. That
I'm
you're,
excited about it.
yeah, you should be. You should be. Hey, I want to get back to the natural healing real quick because
Okay.
I just didn't get the right question in. Where do people go if they want to learn about these kind of things? What do you do? I mean, because I know a lot of people who are just paralyzed by analyze, right? They just don't know what to do, and I know a lot of people are very concerned about, and I'm going to use your words, the craziness that went on in the world, which we're going to talk about, by
Yep.
the way. But um, where do they go?
That's really hard because a lot of people are sold on the fact that medications heal, and they do, but what happens is you get on a medication, then you get sick because of all the side effects. And all they can do is, I have to be a voice. Those of us who use herbs and stuff, we have to be the voice that keeps telling people.
Mhm.
But where do they go? There are naturalists out there, and my naturalist is also an MD, so she prescribes medications.
Mhm.
But I told her when I walked in, do not ever think about prescribing a medication for me. I
Mhm.
said, I'm here for guidance. I want to be here for a team.
Mhm.
But people need to understand that their voice has value, And I think people are afraid of that. They're so caught up in medicine. And I have a friend who's really sick with heart disease, diabetes, and you name it. And I told him, I said, Jack, you got to get off these medications because one is feeding the other disease. And
Hmm.
he goes, nope, my doctor knows what he's doing. So we can't change the mind of those who are caught into this system that they bought into. And so I don't know how to get it out any more than just doing the YouTube channel
Hmm.
or telling people, like, if you're in the grocery store and they're just kind of talking, I said, oh, if you do this, you can get that. And I speak up all the time when people are asking. And I've shared with people about avocados, how to know what's a good avocado.
Yeah.
And they said, really? I said, yeah, you can tell. And you can tell if it's bad because if you pull off that little stem, it's no longer gold in there. You don't have, it's because a good avocado will still be soft.
Hmm.
But if it's brown in the middle when you pick off that thing, don't buy
Hmm.
it. So I try to teach as I go and as the opportunity allows itself.
Hmm.
But because I'm not a licensed herbalist, all I can do is share what I know. And I always put that disclaimer on there
Yeah.
that I'm not a doctor, but this is what works for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell people all the time, I've managed hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, but I am not a financial advisor. I don't give financial advice, blah, 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 blah. But so I get that. I think the certificates are completely overrated, by the way. I
They
want,
are.
I mean, I think somebody like you who went down the journey and who had illness and who now has figured out how to take control, right, of your own
Yep.
health and control of that illness. I think that's who we need to be learning from.
Yep. I even do it with my grandson. My grandson does not like bandages.
Hmm.
And oh, I can't think of the name of it. Brain fog here. But there is a plant. It's it'll come to me, but it's a very soft leaf, and
Hmm.
you can use that. You just kind of crunch it up. You can bite it, and so that the juices come out, and you apply it, and then put an ace bandage or whatever around it. When
Hmm.
he got cut, I did that for him,
Hmm.
and he just like he really liked it. And I said, this isn't a band-aid. This is just medicine from the earth. And he was cool with that because
Yeah.
his mom is like, what do I do? He won't do a band-aid because he screams.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, we got something. We'll take care of it. And that's what
Yeah.
we do.
How amazing is that?
Yeah.
I have a very good friend of mine who's really been a life friend of mine. I mean, for many, 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 many years. When I met him, his youngest son, they had on two ADHD medicines. Man, that kid bounced and bounced and bounced, and you couldn't hardly control him. And he didn't listen, and I mean, all of these things. And I told him one day, I said, "You guys, this is
Mm-hmm.
the problem. This is being created. I don't care what the doctor's telling you. This is being created. Take control, create boundaries, create diet. You can manage this other ways." And so, anyway, long story short, they ended up at about, I think, 8 or 9 years old. They ended up taking him off all of it. And you know what? He graduated at the top of his class. He's now a grown, he's a man now, right? But he graduated at the top of his class and is thriving in life. And it was and they'll tell you today that this was the single best decision they had ever made. But they were listening to what they believed the experts were, that they
Yeah.
had to do it. Or if they didn't do it, they didn't love their kids.
And plus, the doctors make you feel guilty when you
Mhm.
have little ones. They make you feel guilty.
Mhm.
And we had a motorcycle before we had kids, and
Mhm.
the doctor made me feel guilty because we were going for bike rides all the time. He goes, you shouldn't do that. And so we sold our bike and we kick ourselves now because we sold our motorcycle. But we miss it, but not really.
Mhm.
But yeah, we listen to our doctors because we trust them.
Mhm.
And but, we also have to be heard when we go in that we don't like this side effect.
Mhm. Well, I think what you said right there is really important, is that because I love my kids, I need to stand up and be their advocate. I mean, you just talked earlier about being the voice,
Hmm.
right? And
Yep.
there's a lot of really cool things you said that I've wrote down, the perimeter, be the voice. I mean, this is all like, this is t-shirt material, Laura. This is good stuff for you. I'm telling you. Um, but you talked about being an advocate for yourself, right? And standing up and saying, hey, I don't like this. I don't like this. But I mean, if we really love our kids, would we not be an advocate for them too?
That's right. Yep.
You
I
know?
had to learn that, as I got older, but I say things to my daughter, he needs this. And she does keep the dye away from his diet
Hmm.
because those dyes and I researched and researched, she wants the grandkids on supplements.
Mm,
And I said, you feed them so healthy, they don't need supplements.
yeah.
But she wanted it. And so I had to look. There's only one supplement out there that has no dyes in it and no added fillers.
Mm.
Isn't
Yeah,
that sad?
super sad. So, something you said, Laura, along the way that you've a couple times. And so, me being the prepper, homesteader, freesteader that I am, I can't help but dig into it because I'm just that. Okay. So, you kept referring to the crazy world.
It's the chaos. I don't want to say the COVID word.
Yeah.
It's like,
You can say it here. I don't. I say it all the time.
to me, it's like a nightmare to say that. But yeah, it's crazy because people have changed.
Hmm.
They're not, I have discovered people are not the same people they were. And I've learned who to trust and who not to trust.
Hmm.
And to me, that's very sad because I'm a very giving person.
Hmm.
And then I discovered how hateful people have become. And it's like, what on earth happened?
Yeah.
And that's what brought me down. For 2 years, I was going down and I just like, and my doctors actually reported me to the insurance company and they called me saying that I said, no. I said, you guys are the ones that have created this. I'm not talking to you.
Yeah.
And so I don't go back to that doctor either.
Mm.
But I had to digest it. I had to deal with it in terms of how it was affecting me. So that's why I think the crazy world that we live in is it's disruptive to our health
Hmm.
because of all the hate of everybody telling you have to do this or
Hmm.
you don't trust the science or you don't do this. And first of all, I couldn't get it. I felt really good about that because I could use that as an excuse.
Yeah.
But do you know how many people told me I was the reason that people were sick? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm in my house. I'm not giving you a virus.
Right.
And now they're at the point where saying this is going to be a virus that we're going to experience every year,
Hmm.
like the flu,
Yep.
meaning nothing's changed.
Hmm.
So I just kind of find it, and I feel bad because my husband ended up getting it for his job because he didn't want to wear a mask,
Yep.
because it was a 12-hour shift.
Yep.
So he got the first one and then he got the second one. And I said, hon, please don't get any more.
Hmm.
Because the more I learned,
Hmm.
and now I kind of not live in fear. I just pray daily that, you know, he didn't get enough of that junk
Hmm.
into his system. Plus, every time he got it, I made him take activated charcoal for a week. And I said, please take this. I want you alive for a while.
That is so funny. That is something that B would absolutely do.
Yeah. But
It,
he
she
he
would.
hasn't taken another vaccine since, so
Yeah, what I think so crazy about the whole vaccine thing, and my story, and as a lot of people do. I went through a whole bunch of tribulation over this, but
yep.
it seems to me that they keep us divided on purpose. That, and some people are more susceptible to the programming, and than other people, and some people can stand and some people can't. But I actually kind of feel, this is going to sound so weird, me saying this. I kind of feel sorry for those who are so hateful about it and all of that, because the wool has been pulled over their eyes to such a huge extent that they're willing to hate, and
Mm.
they're willing to, to do those kinds of things, and it's funny, I lost my career over a virus with a 99.5% survival rate.
A lot of people did. And now we're dealing with a healthcare system that is failing us
Yes.
because there's nobody there. And then the staffing that's coming in, I'm talking like nursing care and stuff like that. I went in, they don't even know how to take a blood pressure. And
Yeah.
it just kind of, I mean, I have the experience and know how to do it, but somebody who doesn't,
Mhm.
they don't know if they're taking it right, not always. And I'm just like, I can't believe this. And they also, this is something I observed that some of them, they don't have value in their presentation.
Mhm.
One of the things that should be a requirement and was when I was in working in the hospital is your presentation needs to be clean, needs to be kind, and all those characteristics. It needs to be presented in who you are. And you don't see that in all the new, I can't say all of them. There's a select number of people that just like, you're not touching me. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say that because I feel like I'm being judgmental, but I don't mean to be. It's just that we lost. the gift or the ability to present ourselves in a way that shows care.
Yeah, well, I was gonna think maybe that last word's the key to everything you said right there. Maybe we just don't care.
Right. Yeah, that's probably it. I care.
Well, I know you care. When I say us, I'm more speaking of the collective whole,
The
the
world
world. You know,
basically.
that maybe the world, maybe we have been so programmed that we don't care about each other anymore.
And you know what's sad about that? Because when you speak up, like during the last 2 years, when I spoke up, I got written up
Mhm, of course.
as a patient. And I said, "You've got to be kidding." I
Mhm.
said, "They call me yelling at me, and you want me not to respond in kind?"
Right.
I said, "So next time you call me, I'm gonna just say I can't talk to you and hang up because I refuse to be yelled at and then you not expect some sort of whatever." Um, yeah, the mask thing was, I don't have a problem wearing a mask into the hospital if that's what they require. I don't like it,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean we're going to wear a mask around our home or when we go out because I don't think it's essential.
Yeah. You know, I'm a big supporter of individual rights, and I think a company, a privately held company, has the right to do whatever they want to do as long as it doesn't infringe upon the rights of somebody else. And so, if someone wants you to wear a mask, I think that's their right. But if they want you to get vaccinated, I don't think that's their right.
Right.
Just me personally. But have you watched any of those those new documentaries about the COVID vaccine and about the blood clots and about all of these other things and the doctors that are saying? Have you seen any of that stuff?
I have seen, I can't think of a name of any of them right off the top of my
Mhm.
head, but yeah, I'll watch them because my husband works a shift and I'll sit down afterwards and I'll start watching them. Like he'll come home. I say, "You can't do this. You want to live." And I said, "This is what's happening to people." And they do not want to admit that the vaccine is killing people.
Mhm.
They don't want to admit that.
Yeah.
But at the onset, from what I read, even when I went in and my doctor asked me, he goes, "Laura, do you think you're going to get it?" I said, "First of all, I can't. I'm allergic to the ingredients." I said, "But not only that, from what I read, and I brought the documents with me.
Mhm.
I said, this here says this says here." I said, "It's not safe.
Mhm.
It's not safe for anybody. This is experimental and we shouldn't be doing it."
Yeah.
And I mean, he was gracious, but I had another doctor I fired because he insisted it's not going to affect your allergies. And I thought, thank you for wanting me to die because I'm not taking it.
I think that something you said right there I really like. That I had to fire my doctor.
Yeah.
Like I like that. I mean that's like standing up. You're the boss. I like
Yep.
this.
I had to
More
I
people
had to
need to do that.
stand up to the point of where I called the office manager and I said, he will not meet my doctor, take him off my chart because this is what he did. Even though I reported him, they did nothing.
Of course. Yeah,
So
they
I
think you're crazy.
Yeah, and so
Mhm.
I will not go to a doctor who does not respect me or I mean, he's what, late 30s, early 40s, and I'm 62, and he knows more about my body, he just met me.
Mhm.
I'm like, "I don't think so."
Yeah. Yeah, they probably nobody know more about it than you do.
No, one of the doctors I still have, he says, "You know about your body more than any patient he's ever seen go through his office."
Yeah, how cool is that?
Well, I think the Lyme disease did it because I was aware of different things that were happening with my body,
Mhm.
and I would journal it and just say, "Okay, this is happening when this happens,"
Mhm.
and so I could be aware of it, and I'll tell you, I think herbal medicine is such a gift
Mhm.
that and it was here long ago, but science took it over and said, "Oh, we can't have you do that. We're gonna take that same stuff in the ground, and we're gonna make a medicine that has other stuff in it."
Yeah. Yeah.
And, which is sad because I think if they come on board,
Mhm.
we would be so far ahead of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story about the day that I became aware, because I'm a skeptic just naturally. I
My
don't.
husband is too.
I'm your husband. Like I need irrefutable proof in
Yep.
my life. It's just the way I am. But anyway, so my bee was messing with a lawn chair one day, and she got her skin pinched in the hinge of the lawn chair. Those old lawn chairs that kind of fold out, and,
Yep.
and she had an instant, the size of a $50, this big deep bruise on her arm.
Yeah.
And she grabbed some lavender oil
Yep.
and rubbed some lavender on it, and man, it was gone in no time. I'm like,
Yep.
wait, what?
What happened?
Hold on. Do you take anything else? You know, and
It's magic.
it was literally like kind of magic. And since then, I like to weld, so I get weld burns a lot, and things like that. And I'm a 100% believer in lavender, for example. 100%.
Yep.
It will do. It's better than aloe. It's better than Anyway, so I think it's interesting that we as a species have gone down the pharmaceutical road instead of the things that God gave us. Because
Right.
this world's full of, amazing things. My wife, she's such a nerd. We'll go walking down we have 40 acres,
Yeah.
and we'll go walking, and she'll be like, "Oh my God, there's yarrow. Oh my God, there's," like, she's this, constant looking for medicinal, things she can harvest, naturally. But I think people need to explore this road, I think, more and more, and take responsibility for it. I will say, though, and I wanted to mention this earlier, we have a friend and a fellow freesteader and someone who's on my lives a lot, called Silver Lining. And I know her personally. She is a nurse in a hospital.
Oh.
And that girl is fighting with everything she has in her for her patients,
Hmm.
and she is the right kind you want in there. And so we talk a lot about the medical system and about that, but I'm telling you, I know firsthand there are people, Laura, just like you when you were in, who really want to help a patient, who are doing it
Yep.
for the right reasons.
Yep.
And so I just don't want them to take it as bashing on them, because
No,
I,
no, no, no.
I believe in them and I love them, and they need to keep doing what they're doing.
So it's not only that, but in some cases, they can't say anything.
Hmm.
If you talk to them one on one,
Hmm.
confidentially off the record,
Hmm.
they will say, we cannot say anything.
Yeah.
And that's what's really sad, because some of them are doing natural remedies at home,
Hmm.
but
Yep.
they can't tell you this.
Yeah.
But if you have a relationship, like one of my doctors, I've been with him over 10 years, you get to the point where they're family.
Hmm.
And so not within the clinical part where your
Hmm.
notes and stuff being taken, but on the side, you can say off the record,
Hmm.
you can get some information, and they support people who want to fight for this, but it's
Hmm.
so sad for them because they can't speak up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the medical system's in shambles, and I think that being free means taking responsibility for your health. And I think you've done an exceptional job, Laura, at doing that. And I think you could be a role model for many people. And I hope a lot of people get out of this that you can do it. Lyme disease is no joke.
It's no joke. I wish it had not even my worst enemy,
Yeah.
because it really took me for a loop.
Yeah.
And then I mean, if you get it and you treat it, it can be okay. But I always worry because who knows what it's like getting the shot, what's the long-term
Yeah.
effect of it. But if you didn't know you got bit or whatever, you don't realize what's going on. And then all of a sudden things are changing in your body that doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden you just aren't functioning anymore. And it's horrible. But nobody believes in Lyme disease. They can't say anything. They'll say, well, you don't have it because you're not experiencing this anymore. I said, it's because of the medication. And I went in for a spinal, and my neurologist said to me, I told him, I said, I went off all my herbs because of bleeding. You have the potential. I knew what herbs could cause bleeding. And so I went in and I saw him and I told him what was going on, the side effects I had afterwards. And he goes, why'd you go off all that stuff? I said, because it can cause bleeding. He goes, don't you ever go off that. Now, here's a guy who is wanting me to go on medications, but in another note, he's telling me, don't ever do that again,
Hmm.
because he knew that it had an effect on me.
Yeah. Well, I think that's actually an interesting point too. All of us are different, and the way we respond to things are different. And
Yeah.
and I think back to your earlier point, nobody knows your body more than you. I'm excited about this conversation. I really think what I hope people get out of this is just that you got to take accountability for your own health.
Yep.
You
It's
got
first with your diet and then your exercise, and then take a look at your medications. What are you taking and do you need it? And
Yeah.
I like what Danny has shared, that he can use his urine with his composting and stuff because there's no medicine in it. And I'm like, that is so awesome. I can't tell you the things I now do.
You and me would get along so good.
uh, I can't tell some people because they would say, that's disgusting. No,
Yeah.
no, no, you can do
Yeah.
this.
I think it's amazing that we have everything we need. We just have to go get it, and we just have to learn it. And I applaud you, Laura, for taking the the initiative to go learn it. And please don't stop what you're doing. I mean it. Go help people, because I mean, at the end of the day, we're just going to live this life, but the things we leave behind, those are the things that matter, and those are the things we'll be remembered for. And so I think that's exciting. So, but I'm getting ready to wrap this up. But before we go, I want to tell you what I learned from you today
Okay,
that I'm going to take away from this, and then I'll let you close the show out. Sound fair?
sounds great.
Okay. So a couple things that I wrote down that I think are just remarkable that I'm going to take out of this is one, what we talked about a lot is taking responsibility, right? So I learned, and I knew that, but I'm really going to write that down. But shopping the perimeter is a big deal. Like, that is so cool. When I leave here tonight, when I get down to this, the very first thing out of my mouth after I tell my wife I love her and she looks beautiful is I'm going to tell her shopping the perimeter. We're going to talk about this. And so I think that's really cool. But I think the biggest thing you said tonight is be the voice.
Yeah.
And so I think, when I go and put this video out, I think I'm going to call it Be the Voice. And because I think it's just so powerful, you have to be your own advocate. And you got to be advocate for the people around you and the people you love. So that's where I'm going to leave it. But Laura, this is you. And so say anything you want. What message you want to get out to the people out there listening tonight?
Part of my potpourri of life does encompass my whole life in terms of my faith, my where I have journeyed from my sewing, and then where I'm focused now on the health of everybody around us. But what's important to me is that as people hear me and they ask questions, I've got nursing friends that may ask, well, what do you do for this? That's when I know that I'm doing what I am called to do,
Mm-hmm.
because I think each of us we're responsible for our own selves, our families. But when people are led to come to us, that's our opportunity to teach them.
Mm-hmm.
And if they decide to follow through, that becomes on them, as long as we're being honest with them. So I hope that through everything I do, that it makes a difference in whoever is hearing me, whether tonight or any other video I put out there. I want it to have an impact for somebody somewhere.
Well, you had an impact on me tonight.
Awesome.
So that's pretty cool. Well, hey, everybody out there, listen, get over to Potpourri for Life on YouTube, subscribe, and show some love. And you know what? I talk about this all the time, everybody, about how we as a community got to stick together. We just have to. And if we do that, we're going to be okay. And so, make sure that you go out there and do that. And, Laura, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. Because again, I got some big stuff out of it, and I'm going to run it down and tell B, and, she'll eat it all up. But, it's really exciting. But guys, like I tell you every night, go live a little freer today than you did yesterday. Hold the line. Don't give an inch. Tag out.